Hey there, Adrian Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for December 19th through 23rd, 2022. Well, we're coming to the end of this year and a very powerful astrology as we are preparing for Jupiter to return back over the Aries point into the sign of Aries. Jupiter went uh, into Aries for the first time May 11th, 2022, this year, and then transited back into Pisces for the last couple of months, where it's been lingering at the end degrees, 28 and 29 degrees of Pisces, the death cycle, the end, the very end of the zodiac. We have to keep this in mind and get perspective on your life and what's happening right now. We have been talking about this dip back into the Piscean age, and of that, what that really means is the all of the programming, conditioning, and belief systems that have kept us playing victim and playing small. And we are coming face to face with our false self and being invited into a huge, brand new story, our landing home, our bigger, more true self. This is what this astrology is all about. And there's quite a story playing out for us for this solstice. So the solstice is on Wednesday, the 21st. And I hope you can consider joining a solstice soul group session, a group intuitive session for supernova souls, looking at shared past life pictures. Very powerful. Supernova souls have incarnated, come in as groups, and so we're looking at the energies that very similar that supernova souls have experienced through their past lives, and where we have may have gotten stuck in these old stories. Because each lifetime that we live, we have a whole different get up, our garment, our role that we're playing. And that's what the sun is in our astrology chart. Even though the sun is like the most true as far as energetically, it's to our soul, it's a role that we're playing. But when we've experienced trauma in past lives, we've gotten stuck in these roles. And these roles are like voodoo doll pins of like old, messed up belief systems and distortions that have been we've been clinging. They've been clinging to us, we've been clinging to them because it's all we know. So we're in a really interesting time where all of this is breaking down. And that's exactly what this astrology is talking about, because the main energy of this solstice, like we said on Wednesday, December 21st, um, in mountain time in the US. So in some places in the world, it's on the 22nd. We get to do the soul group session at the exact time of the solstice this year, and so that's very exciting. It's going to be the exact time is at 2:48 Mountain Time in the U.S., and the soul group session will start at 2 p.m. So we'll be right in the heart of it as we move through that exact time of the solstice, and what a powerful opportunity to be together. So, yes, the solstice, we've been waiting, talking all year, and it's so interesting the way this astrology is mirroring the natural cycle of seasons and energies, um, because we've got this Jupiter moving over the Aries point on the 21st, which is when the sun is um, the shortest day in the northern hemisphere, the longest day in the southern hemisphere. It's this major turning point where the sun lingers, and it's like we're turning around the story. So Jupiter to be going into Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, rebirth. It's about fire. It's about let's get going, let's do something. Um, on this turning point energy, it's really, really powerful. And then take the whole energy around the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter that happened at the last shift of ages, the Christmas star, and we just had Saturn Jupiter conjunction at the end of Capricorn, beginning of Aquarius, and so we are looking at this rebirth, new timelines, new stories. But at the same time that Jupiter's, we've been talking, and it's and this anticipation. It's something that goes along with the Christmas holiday and this time of year before the more ancient traditions practiced and celebrated for the whole month before the solstice. And the solstice, the rebirth of the sun, or 3 days after, because it takes a minute for the sun to get going. So that's Christmas, right? Then that 3 days after or so is when the sun makes its return in the northern hemisphere. The days start to get a little longer and a little shorter in the southern hemisphere. And so at that moment, there's this anticipation. So, traditionally, in ancient times, there was a festival in the northern hemisphere that would be the 4 weeks leading up to this event, this solstice event, and it was about celebrating the elements and the levels of consciousness and the evolution that we've gone through. So, Rudolf Steiner talks about like the rocks are a physical form. They have life because they are, and we know this because we, but they don't move and they don't have any sentient um, energy. So it's like that's the first level of evolution represented by physical form. And then the plants represent more of the living and breathing experience. And the animals then are emotional consciousness, and then there's the birth of the higher man, potentially man and the higher man, and human evolution. Consciousness as aware of itself as consciousness. And so the solstice represents that, this higher potential for humanity. And so that Jupiter going over that point, just as the Aries point, just as the sun is going over, is incredibly powerful. Now, this puts these into a square, and it's so interesting, this juxtaposition energy, because Jupiter is just like, yeah, and this anticipation of this rebirth, this like waiting for Santa Claus to come, the magic, the spirituality that we're missing in our everyday life comes alive this time of year, and people want to be together and share and have gratitude, and it's, of course, we're way overly commercialized, and this, we'll talk about the programming that we're overcoming here with Mercury and Capricorn. But this sun at the beginning degrees of Capricorn, so the 0 degrees Aries point where Jupiter's moving to, and then the sun will just come into it. So they're already in square. And it's weird. This time of year is always weird. There's this pause, this very mystical time as as the sun turns. And so we're in that there, we're already feeling the square, but right now the square is between Sagittarius and Pisces, right? Now, right now, today, the sun is still in the galactic center. And so this is so powerful because the sun comes into this galactic center activation, and we've just had Mercury go over the galactic center, Venus, and it's like this higher destiny that's calling to us. And so that energy, then now that kind of indicates the end degrees of Sagittarius have to do with an acute situation around failing or succeeding on your spiritual purpose, right? So there's like at the end of a sign, there's a huge bloom. And so Sagittarius has this feeling of like frustration around not being able to come into your greater destiny. And the greater destiny of humanity is to evolve beyond slaves, right? It's like we're so powerful, and yet we're pretending we're not, or we're just playing small and allowing the conditioning and the programming to limit us. And that's what everything is speaking to here. Now, the end degrees of Pisces, we've already talked about. So we've got this conflict over where we've gotten off of our spiritual purpose and path. And then the last degrees of Pisces, of course, that's why, because we were so persecuted. The light. Anybody who's coming in just being the light, you don't even have to do anything. It's like they will take you down in the Piscean age. And so the wounds and the low self-worth and the programming of traumatic past lives is all coming up to be released. And so the sun at this very crucial cusp time moment of moving from our unexpressed or fulfillment of destiny into and then the prison of previous experiences, and then moving into this rebirth energy. Now let's look at, we know 0 degrees Aries. Okay, yeah, it's like the seed is sprouting and shit's happening, and let's get up and go. Aries is a cardinal sign, and these are the instigators, the starters. It's a fire sign. So it's the first fire sign, it's the beginning of the zodiac, and it's about the spark of life and creation. Now, this is what we've been missing. We've been living like we're dead, and people are just getting over it. They're either becoming more dead and just kind of acquiescing to the program, or they're like, what? I almost went to sleep for good. And just this incredible surge of awakening potential right now. And let's look at 0 degrees Capricorn, though, because 0 degrees Capricorn is an achievement energy. It's reaching the top of that mountain or knowing that you're going to. Capricorn for us right now is all about sovereignty. Like, can we be our own boss? Because humanity, if we don't figure it out, we can't go. We can't go any further. We're stuck. Our whole evolution rests on our ability to claim our sovereignty. And that seems to be what this Mercury retrograde in Capricorn coming up is about. And that 0 degrees Capricorn of the sun is solstice. It's the rebirth of the sun. It's the potential of a new king, of a new way, of a new story. And everything's pointing to this. But with the sun there about our identity constructs, it's about our where we've been an authority or we've been controlled by authority, where we've had issues around being an authority, or where we've been controlled by authority, all of us, and or maybe persecuted by authority in past lives. And so this 0 degrees Capricorn sun is a challenge to Jupiter moving over into Aries. And it's saying, these old stories are holding you back. Remember who you were and all that pain and all these habits that we have that are just out of habit because who would we be without it? The way we've just gotten through this experience and our compensations. And it's like, we got to drop all that shit, right? It's like this Jupiter moving into Aries, the sun square Aries is creating like a portal point of light for us to slip through if we so choose, to write that brand new story and land the brand new timeline. Actually, it's an old timeline. It's the original story, the greatest story never told, except that it is being told right here, right now. That's what this astrology is all about. And so, if we're celebrating the full experience potential of the human to become aware of itself as consciousness, to rise to God consciousness, to become a co creator, to activate into our full capacity. And then these stories of the past are keeping us from being able to embody that. So, this is a time when we're dropping it all because they can't, those clothes, those old clothes, and all those old stories can't fit through that pinhole portal. Only our soul can, only source, only the part of ourselves that's true. Now, why are we going through all this incredibly painful ego death? This is called dying before you die. This is untangling all the knots that you typically would do as an all-involved soul after you die. And so, what we're doing now, being conscious, being aware, choosing this path, is unraveling these knots and preparing to make room for that bigger, truer self to come in, that light body, that more advanced part of you that's been waiting in the wings that hasn't been able to fully incarnate in this lifetime. And that seems to be a lot of the energy of this solstice as an embodiment, an incarnation. It's landing home the divine timeline. And guess what, supernovas? You are that. So we got to just really get serious about Capricorn is serious, right? Sun's moving into Capricorn. We got Venus in Capricorn, Mercury taking a retrograde in Capricorn. That means Mercury is going to be in Capricorn for over 2.5 months. a long time. Mercury typically cruises through a sign. So we're really in it, and it's like very important though, because it's so interesting because Mercury made it up to 24 degrees before turning retrograde. At that point, Pluto was at 26 degrees. So it made it up to, or just moving to 27. So they're just a couple of degrees apart, and then Mercury is going to turn retrograde. So that will be a conjunction. Actually, Pluto's at 28 at that point. Pluto has made it to 28, and that happens on the 29th of December. And so Mercury is going all the way to 24 degrees and then almost meeting Pluto, right? And Pluto is this control energy around our power, our psychic power, our intuitive power. And Mercury is our lower mind, but it's about using our lower mind to set us free to access our higher mind again. Break through the conditioning, the fear programming, and all that that's keeping us from coming into our intuitive potential. Everything's about this right now. And so with Mercury retrograde, then will Mercury turns retrograde on the 29th of December. Then it will turn direct on um, 119, January 19th. And then I believe, let me find, yeah, so January 19th, it retrogrades back to 8 degrees and then comes out of retrograde shadow not until February 7th. So now this Mercury retrograde is making 3 squares with Chiron, just had a square with Chiron last week. Now Venus is in square to Chiron, and Chiron is at 11 degrees. The number of facing off, the number of standing up for yourself, the number for a backbone and saying, no, I establish myself in my own reality. And it's a number of autonomy. It's a preparation for war, but it's also 11 is a master number and represents a portal being created. So really it's the overcoming of violence and and going to war in a different way, meaning just claiming power. So Chiron is at 11 degrees, just hanging out there because Chiron turns direct on the 23rd at 11 degrees in Aries. Now, this is a huge energy of impetus. Now, we talked about these gradual increase of energies, right? Because we've got solstice, Jupiter moving into Aries. Then square with the sun comes off around Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and that's going to be a surge of energy. And then we're going to have now Mercury turns direct at the same time. So it's kind of like Jupiter's like, come on, let's go. And Mercury's like, "Mm, not so fast because we've got to deal with this mind control, this programming, this that's keeping us in prison." And so that's why, because this is what this Mercury retrograde is about because of these squares with Chiron. And Chiron and Aries is wounds over where we've given away power or our life force, our energy, our vital force. And we're all doing it right now. We're living in a very intense and crazy time. The physical body is under an attack like never before. And we're each having to choose on cellular level whether we're God or we're machine. Literally, like the situation, the modern technological health situation is seeking to interfere with our bodies, a connection to our soul and energy body, and it's seeking to interfere with our DNA God code. And so we are being forced cell by cell, breath by breath, moment by moment to choose and fight for life, for organic life that we can stay in control of rather than being controlled by some mainframe computer somewhere, right? The AI technology. So this is everything. And that's why this is so on the table right now. So Chiron turning direct at 11 degrees is saying, that's enough. We've had enough. we Now the organism is going to muster the strength it has left to do or die and to throw off this BS or die trying. I mean, that's the energy of Aries, and Chiron is these deep wounds over not being able to succeed, not being able to hold our freedom, having to give our freedom or our life up. Uh, or our dreams, up in order to stay alive. And the sun on the galactic center is like activating these dreams. So it's also activating those personality constructs that are keeping us from ever trying to dream or live a dream ever again. This comes from a lifetime where you were very close to achieving a dream and then thwarted. And then what happens to the souls? It's like an immobilization. Like, why bother? And because as soon as you get to any type of success or fulfillment or attainment, it's like, well, you know, so it's like self-sabotage energy programmed from past lives where you were targeted just as you were about to achieve your goal. Does this fit? Oh gosh. And we've been wallowing around in this for so long, these last couple of years, so intensely. And now it's time to drop it for good, you know? And it's kind of going from old story, old story, old story. And then it's like, all right, somebody write something new, you know? Like, let's get on with it. And so we're moving into cardinal energy with this Capricorn and Aries activation. So um, let's just talk through the timeline as we have these incremental shifts that we talked about. And the solstice, of course, very powerful. And then uh, it really starts today with the sun on the galactic center. And Venus is in square to Chiron today, the feminine fighting for her life and freedom. And then we have the solstice with Jupiter square Saturn, or Sun square Jupiter, then a new moon on the 23rd, the same day that Chiron turns direct. So that's very powerful. Then we have that Christmas Day energy of where the Sun square Jupiter comes off. And then when Mars turns direct, on January 12th. That'll be our next incremental shift. Jupiter comes out of retrograde shadow on February 7th. And then Mars comes out of retrograde shadow, or Mercury will come out of its retrograde shadow on the 7th of February. Oh, sorry, that was Mercury. Jupiter comes out of shadow February 11th, just in time for Valentine's Day. And then the middle of March is when Mars will come out of retrograde shadow. And so we're having this like boom, 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 pump up the volume. And now is a time of preparation. Again and again, I'm seeing it everywhere. Prepare, prepare for what? We've been waiting around for eons. Yeah. Oh, and most of us wanted to pack up and go home long ago. But here we are. So there is an interesting energy. We haven't talked about Mars retrograde in Gemini, and Mars is getting back further in Gemini and coming to is at 11 degrees this week. Mars at 11 degrees is exactly sextile Chiron at 11 degrees. So Mars in Gemini retrograde, frustrated, and Chiron at 11 degrees about to turn direct. So the Venus square Chiron that we're feeling right now and the Mars sextile Chiron lead right up to the solstice and through the solstice. And when Chiron turns direct. So Mars is retrograde in Gemini, frustrated with all of the suppressed expression and about to burst on the inside and just going back further into this frustration of not being heard and not being received and not being able to get it out and speak the truth. But then in a exact sextile with Chiron as Chiron turns direct, just powerful message here. It's like, yeah, it's a war, but it's a different war. And it's truth is how we win. And expression of truth is how we win. Except for it's not exactly the way we think. Like, oh, we're going to go out there and put out a blog post or a video or speak it from the um, bullhorn at Costco or whatever. But it's actually a different kind of message. And this has to do with the other thing that's happening is that right now, Mercury retrograde is in a trine with Uranus in Taurus. A beautiful Earth trine, bringing us some grounding. Although Mercury's getting ready to take a retrograde, so Mercury's going to have 3 trines with Uranus for this retrograde and 3 squares with Chiron. Total magic. And so let's talk about the trine, the Earth trine with Uranus and Taurus. This is saying that we free ourselves from mind control. We claim back our autonomy on a psychic, spiritual, psychological level when we own our own abundance, when we learn to receive the bounty of who we really are, which is our higher intuitive abilities. Now, Uranus and Taurus is speaking, Taurus rules wealth and worth. And we're talking about our worth for our wealth. And the wealth is energetic. Our true wealth, it's not this stuff you can stack up. It isn't. And we are abundant supernova souls. This has been your whole problem. You are a gold mine. When are you going to start acting like it and treat yourself as such? And so this Mercury retrograde in the solstice season is saying that how we get out of this mess and how we set ourselves free into that sovereignty and autonomy is through free energy. Now, there's an interesting thing message, and we talked about it before, but like we can't get free energy. We know the technology exists and has existed for a long time, has been suppressed, and we have been farmed through the suppression of free energy technology. But once supernova souls are walking around in their light body and glowing, and we're demonstrating free energy as a concept in our very closure of free energy technology. And so this is about receiving our wealth and abundance, our energetic wealth. Uranus is higher vibrational frequencies. So we're talking about energetic wealth. It's invisible. And but you've had there's been a lot of reaction to it too. And this is maybe a big message for supernova souls. It's like Mars turning direct. It's like it's time to stand up in our light and power and not hide and not shy away and not give a flying crap about how it affects anybody else. Just again, of huge mantras right now. What one of the things that's happening right now is such a dynamic time. I think this has to do with the Pluto position of Black Moon Lilith is beginning to come off now. And so there's this energy of facing a purge of this really dark stuff. Like you could see this flying out of people or yourself, just all of a sudden, like, whoa, where did that come from? But it's like true colors. We can't hide it anymore, and it's like this, but it's really good because then you're like, okay, cool. I know what I'm dealing with here. None of this, no more. We're moving out of the age of deception where things can laying in wait. That can't happen anymore. It's all is being revealed. All that is dark must come into the light. And that's what's happening in these times. And so it's happening with people around us. And so just be aware of that because it's kind of like, oh, and it feels like you could get slimed. It could come onto you, but really it's just an expression, a healing, cleansing crisis, and don't get too attached or triggered. That's the other thing that's going on. It is like, where's the next hook or trigger? It's like life right now is constant hooks and triggers showing you where you're not neutral, because we can't make this shift where we're not neutral, where we have these ties, where we have these knots. So it's so powerful to be like, start to go there. Of course, you got to go into the pattern, right? And you're like, oh, this is me. And then it's like, oh, they're trying to hook me in. Not they, it's just energies, right? It's like, but the closer you get to freedom here, this happens. It's like, and then it's like everybody around you is all of a sudden on the team to try to poke you until you get triggered again because they want your juice. They want what you have, which is the energetic wealth. Don't let them have it. Do not bother yourself with, these problems that aren't, it's none of your concern. And bring yourself back to the preparation, to the place where this higher, beautiful liquid light part of yourself can land home and we can get to work on what we came here to do. So really powerful. And maybe that's the energy of this Mars in sextile to Chiron. It's and Mars will make this sextile again after turning direct, so probably in February. And it's like, okay, it's a new battle, a new battleground, and it's in the area of our expression. And so again, it says, hey, show who you are. Let your freak flag fly. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. Pluto's going into Aquarius March 23rd, only 0 degrees, but still it's happening. Let yourself be seen as who you are, as that living, breathing demonstration, as this fully evolved or open to more fully evolving, the true potential of humanity, the energetic wealth. And that's basically what this is saying, is that no more secrets, right? So we can only have all this duplicity and lying and secretiveness when the light is hiding. So time to come out of the shadows, almost, almost. We got another couple of weeks of Mars retrograde. But this is an incubation time. It's a landing home. It's a rebirth. It's a portal into the new age. It's a landing home of divine timelines. It's so beautiful. And yet there's this energy of like, you've got to be there to take it. You got to pay attention. You got to be present. And so that's what's so powerful about getting together for these events, for these special moments astrologically. And I'm so excited to get together with you for that Solstice Soul Group session. That's 2 p.m. Mountain Time on Wednesday, the 21st. First, leading up to that exact time of the solstice, incredibly potent energies where we hold space for this landing home and see what comes up. You know, this work is intuitive and basically channeling from our higher selves and talking to each other on this level. So we never know what is going to come up, but there's definitely some energies around making sure we've broken contracts with authorities and this whole embodiment energy and light body. What does this even mean? This energetic wealth that we have. So these are the themes that are coming up, and I hope you'll consider joining that Solstice Soul Group session. The information to sign up for that is in the information box below. So very dynamic and powerful energies. And just to recap, these are the solstice energies. And this is like a perfect way to put it all into the lining up that's happening for us astrologically right now. We've got uh, one very powerful opposition, one very powerful square, one very powerful trine, and one very powerful sextile. So it's kind of like one of each of the major elements. And when you have that, say in a birth chart, and you're looking at it, that's like the perfect soup. It's a perfect combination of energies of tension and release, pressure and change. And so we've got the Pluto and exact, just very close, just coming out of their exact opposition with Black Moon, Lilith, and Cancer. Everything's pointing to the deep, dark wound and illusion of separation. And that's what's really underneath all of the constructs and programming. It really comes down to the same thing. Like, can you receive this life? Can you live? Do you feel worthy of your own abundance? So that says that embodiment of our higher self and that bigger self has to, we have to get rid of the illusion of separation. They don't go together. They can't fit. There's no room for the bigger queen when the high priestess is begging for crumbs. So Pluto opposite Black Moon Lilith. And then we've got a powerful square just right around, making like a peace sign shape. And the square is between the sun and Jupiter. So that square is like, gotta break the old habits, gotta break the old you, gotta break the old constructs, gotta let go of those old stories because we gotta make room for the brand new story. And then we've got a sweet trine between for the solstice. We're feeling Mercury in this trine right now, but Venus will be in this trine with Uranus for the solstice. Exact. Um, Venus in Capricorn and trine to her home sign, and Uranus, the higher mind of the feminine intuition, the Sophia, the divine wisdom has been buried in the scrolls when the feminine was sent to the underworld and called disgraceful and disgusting. Wealth and unlocking it from the control energies that have kept it from us. Very powerful, and just releasing into this abundance of who we really are. And then a sweet sextile between Mars retrograde and Gemini, 11 degrees, not so sweet. And Chiron, not so sweet, at 11 degrees, Aries, about to turn direct. So it's turning of the tide, it's a changing of the seasons, it's the writing of a new story. It's an age changer, game changer. And we're right there. We get to be here. We made it. You made it. Don't give up now. Jupiter is at 29 degrees, Jupiter, Pisces for only a couple more days. Okay. And just step into the portal, step into the fires, burn all that's faults away. Let everybody trigger the F out of you until there's nothing left, till you're just stand naked as who you really are and ready to receive incredible, abundant spiritual wealth. So I look forward to seeing you hopefully Wednesday for that soul group session, the next update. Thank you so much for being with me, Supernova Souls. You are stars. I look forward to seeing you soon. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.